Hi, my name is Tom Van Zanten, and this is my video on fountain pens. First, I'm going to compare ballpoint pens with gel rollerball pens and fountain pens. Now, when I reach the fountain pen, I'm going to explain the three most important parts of a fountain pen. That being the ink of a fountain pen, the nib of a fountain pen, and its body. So, ballpoint pens. Ballpoint pens are very simple. Inside of them is a tube, and that tube contains a oil-based paste. Now, via gravity, that paste flows down to this metal part, and at the tip of that metal part is a little ball. Now, when you press the ball on the paper and you start to write with it, the ball will roll and distribute the ink onto the paper. However, because the ball has to catch on to that ink, ballpen pens tend to be hard starters, and therefore you have to press onto the page hard to get a uniform color. Now, uniform, what I mean with that is if you start to write with your fountain pen like this, some parts can be lighter than others. However, that's where gel rollerballs come in, because gel rollerballs are luxurious in compared to ballpoint pens, because instead of using a oil-based paste, it now uses a gel-based paste. So, therefore, by using the gel-based paste, it's much smoother than the ballpen pens, and therefore people tend to prefer rollerballs over ballpoint pens. Now, the fountain pens. Now, before I get into the fountain pens, I'd like to show you this fountain pen. Now, I made this fountain pen myself, and the reason for that is because if you make a fountain pen, you have to do a lot of research, and you have to take certain steps and make certain decisions. And by doing that, you understand how a fountain pen works and the different parts that are in it and how they work with each other. So that's what I did, and it was a really cool experience. So, fountain pens, the ink is water-based. Now, therefore, it's much smoother than the other two. And now that we're talking about the ink, I'd like to show you the different filling techniques of being able to use a fountain pen. Now, the most popular way of using a fountain pen is using ink cartridges. Now, a cartridge is a plastic capsule that's stuck onto the back of the fountain pen nib unit. Now, that ink in this capsule will flow down onto the feed. Now, a feed is often it's made from plastic, and it's just this part with little fins in between. And because of those fins, the fountain pen ink flows through it and then goes to the nib, which the nib in return puts it on the paper again. However, there are other techniques of using a fountain pen, and those techniques are with bottled inks. Now, bottled inks, using bottled ink is more difficult, but it's really worth it, trust me. So, a different way of using filling a fountain pen is using a cartridge converter. Now, a cartridge converter is simply a replaceable cartridge that you can use to fill with an ink bottle. So this is an ink bottle, and this is Nudeless Apache Sunset, but there are many different types of bottles. Now, I'm going to spill the ink back out. So, this cartridge converter, you can twist the end of it, and then a rod will extend downwards or upwards depending on what way you twist it, and there are little rubber fins on the side of the rod that drag ink with it, meaning that if you twist it all the way down, then stick it to the back of your pen and put it in the ink, and then twist the rod up. It will suck up the ink inside of the bottle, and like so. Then you just have to tap onto the glass and clean it with a paper towel or a cloth like this. A different way of filling a fountain pen is with this. Now, this is a piston filler, and it's basically the same thing as a cartridge converter. However, this piston filler has the cartridge converter mechanism built into the pen, because there's a knob at the end. If you twist it, the rod also extends. This time it's inside of the pen. So, if we use this bottle, I can show you. Untwist the pen all the way down. Make sure that there's no ink inside, and if there is a little bit of ink inside, just turn it like this, and then twist up, because if you turn it down and then twist it, then you're gonna spill ink everywhere. Now, put it in and just twist it up like so. And again, tap it on the side, and now it sucked up the ink from the bottle. Again, clean it with a towel or cloth, piece of paper, doesn't really matter. And while we're with the bottles, as you can see, there are many different types of bottles. I mean, this one is very, very small. It's 30 milliliters. You can take it into an airplane, but it's not as nice as a bottle like this or like this. I mean, these bottles, their aesthetics are more luxurious and look way better. However, because they're so full, they look so good, and they use so much glass, it also makes them very expensive. So while this doesn't look as good, it's a better option for traveling, for example. If you have it sitting on your desk or something, this really makes a statement about you using fountain pens and fountain pen bottles. Now, a different way of filling a fountain pen is this. Now, this is an eyedropper pen, and eyedropper pens have the most ink capacity in them, because the system of an eyedropper pen is that you can fill the whole body of an eyedropper with ink. Now, this is an eyedropper bottle. You unscrew the cap, and something like this comes out. Now, this in here is ink. If I squeeze the end, little bits of drops will come out. So you just put it in the bottle, you suck up some ink, and you can just put it in here. Now, just repeat that action a few times, and you will get ink inside. It's very, very satisfying, and you don't necessarily have to do this with this tool. You can also do it with a syringe. That works well. That also works. Now, remember, be careful, don't put it upside down, because it will spill ink everywhere, and you do not want that. So this has a huge ink capacity now, and this pen is lightweight, and because of the combination with the high ink capacity, it fits for large writing sessions. Now, the last filling mechanism and the filling technique and type is a vacuum filling. Now, I don't have a vacuum filling pen here with me, however, I can demonstrate it for you. Now, a vacuum filling pen is, instead of having this rod, you having to twist the pen, you can extend the pen out, the rod with the knob out of the pen. Then, if you press on the back of the pen, the rubber fins will go down and create a negative pressure on this side, meaning that when it drops down to the bottom, the ink from the bottle will shoot up. So that's how you do it with a vacuum filling pen. Now, getting my pen again, the one I made, this one is as you already saw, a cartridge pen, and the reason for that is because cartridges are just very convenient. You can take them anywhere you want, and yeah, that's it. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the nib of a fountain pen. Now, there are different types of nibs and different types of nib sizes. Now, this is a medium size nib. What that means, if you look, if I make a stripe like this, it has a certain width of the line. Now, if I take this pen is a fine pen, and if I make a line with this pen, it's much thinner. So you have normally you have extra fine, medium, broad, double broad, and then you get into the italic nibs. Now, this is an example of an italic nib, and an italic nib is made very differently, because if you take this fountain pen and compare it with this one, you can see that the width of the tip at the end is just, the difference is huge, and it's very flat, meaning that if you make a downstroke, it's going to be very broad, and if you make a side stroke, it's going to be very thin. And calligraphers use this pen because it makes such a nice effect. Like if I were to write in a letter A, for example, you know, the differences in the size, it will really help. And so different artists use that, and it really gives a personal touch to letters you write people or something. Now, you also have different nib materials. The most common nib material is metal and gold. Now, metal nibs are cheaper, and gold nibs are more expensive, of course. Now, metal nibs also are stiffer than gold nibs, and that's why we use them. You can see it as kind of like a shock absorber on a car. If this was a steel nib and you were writing on your paper, every little bump in your paper, every little thing, you would feel. Now, if you have a gold nib like this, and you have the shock absorber on, every little bump, it will just flex out. So it'll be a much smoother writing experience. Now, if you look at this, you can see that if I make something with this, I can't really stretch it or something, and it just stays in one line. But if I take this gold pen, for example, because this is an actual 14 karat gold nib, and I make a line, and I flex a little bit with it, you can really see the difference in size. Now, that's because of the goldness. So, looking at my pen again, I have a metal nib, and that's because gold nibs are just way more expensive, and this whole process was difficult, so a metal nib was the right option for me. Now, talking about the body of the pen, my pen is made from wood, and it's called Bocoat wood. Now, intentionally, firstly, I wanted to make my pen out of ebonite. However, I learned that ebonite is a very hard wood, and with snakewood, for example, they're both very hard, and to work with that is very difficult. And since I'm not a pro and not used to making pens, I had to go for softer wood, and I chose Bocoat wood because I just really like the pattern it gives, and it shines. Now, you have different materials, of course. The most common one is plastic, and you also have metal pens and celluloid pens. Now, celluloid pens are often more expensive because it's just harder to make a pen out of celluloid. You also have special artists that make art on the pen itself, and that's very, very special. Because to make a pen with that art, it's called Urushi lacquer. That's the most known artwork on fountain pens, and Urushi lacquer is from a tree. And to make a pen with Urushi lacquer and all their art on it, it costs like 6 months to make, and it's very, very expensive. So yeah. Now, because my pen is made out of wood and a lot of metal on it, it stands out, and I really, really like that. And that was really what I was going for. That's at the end of this project. When I have my pen, every time I look at it, I want to be like, wow. And for me, I definitely made that happen. The one disadvantage of having such a big and heavy pen is that it is not suited for long writing sessions, because for now, just writing with it, it feels great. The nib is smooth and everything it feels really, really, really cool. However, if you write for a long time, it will tire out your hand, so maybe only use it for small writing sessions or switch after you get tired. So that was it. I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching this video.